Beta Upsilon Chi, BYX, presents Man to Men, the premier audio journal for men who live faithfully and lead courageously. I'm Jared Musgrove, bringing you an installment in our occasional series, Collegiate Leaders. These are conversations with college men who live faithfully and lead courageously on major campuses across the country. And today, we welcome Davis Catlin, straight from the University of Alabama. Welcome, Davis.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, I always enjoy talking with you, man. We got to meet and connect pretty substantially on our core leadership experience, which we'll talk about a little bit today here on the show. But I'm looking forward to the follow up with you and hearing from you today.
I'm so excited. I always love talking with you.
Yeah. Well, man, just to orient everybody who's listening in, give us what I call the LinkedIn stats. You know, background, major area of study, what took you to Alabama? Just give us the background.
Absolutely. So I ended up at Alabama purely it was just the Lord working. So I grew up homeschooled in middle school and high school. And so going to a massive public school was so daunting to me and not something that I even planned to do. But I grew up an Alabama fan in Tennessee. So I was around, I was behind enemy lines.
That's a rough one.
Wow. I know. So I was like, maybe it's time to finally go home. So we went and toured. My mom just told me, she goes, this is where you need to be. And so super daunting. It was definitely the Lord preparing me for greater things that I didn't even perceive to be possible for myself. I was very stressful going into school, and I was stressed out, worried about the future. This led to almost depression, and to the point where I just couldn't feel any happiness. And then, getting to Alabama, knowing nobody, coming from a homeschool bubble, I faced things that I never thought I would face. Coming to school, being in a secular environment. And so the Lord really prepped me for what he wanted for me. And it's crazy how he works. I think you can attest to this as well. He definitely sees the good in you much higher than, what you see in yourself. And so he preps me for that. And so I'm here now. I've been changed in ways I never would have expected. I am studying communications and PR. And I really love that because it's really expanded my ability to connect and communicate with people, which is truly my passion. So It's been amazing how the Lord's worked here.
Oh man, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, we did get to connect about just having similar communications backgrounds, love for that. When you were on our core leadership experience, Davis, you got to experience something really, really neat. And just for our listeners, we've got BYX guys, we've got guys in churches, BYX does an annual core leadership experience. And this is really our Top Gun guys from major campuses and BYX chapters around the country. These are college men who you have to apply, you have to be accepted. You fly for a week in Dallas. You spend a time with major Christian business leaders, pastors, nonprofit executives, just learning what does it look like to be a man of God in these different sectors of professionalism, faith, and family. You sit in the homes of some of our staff and board members who are a few steps ahead of you in life just to learn. So all that's in Dallas. And then you get to go off for a week together with this group of about 40 men to experience a backpacking epic through the mountains of Colorado. And there's some challenges there too. So Davis, with that setting it up, would you share with some of the guys, you're fresh off the core leadership experience, and as we were pre-gaming, what you shared really, really affected me. I'd love for the guys to hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that obviously we have that week learning and growing and almost sponge-like, and we're going to take in all this information vomit. And you were there.
Oh yeah. Dallas is that way for sure. Yeah. Speaker after speaker, just amazing.
But it's special.
Men. Yeah.
It's special because it all, it connects with us. It's perfectly tailored. And going in, I kind of shared with you, I try to stray away from emotional connections to Christ, just emotion driven. And so I didn't know if I had many expectations for the trip, but I definitely had many great conversations in Dallas going into Colorado. And I had a awe-inspiring, radical reconnection with Christ in Colorado. As I was really finally able to face my fears. And my biggest fear and my biggest struggle is loneliness. There was a lot of conversations around the wilderness. Jesus went into the wilderness before he started his ministry. And who are you to say that you won't have your wilderness before you go into ministry, which is your life? As Christians, you can be a full-time pastor or you could be a janitor at a school. You're still in ministry and you're ministering to people. And so, we literally went into the wilderness. And so I'm facing this internal fear of loneliness, and which has driven my life and my schedule. I'll stay out late until midnight, 1 in the morning, hanging out with friends, wake up just to go to class and hang out with them again. I don't want to be alone. And this came to a head when we were given the challenge to go out alone, nobody around us, into the wilderness for 8 hours, which was my biggest fear. What am I to do for 8 hours alone, in quiet and silence, in a place where there's no service? I can't get on my phone and call somebody,
Yeah.
which has always been a crutch. If nobody's around, I'll call somebody. And so no crutches, nothing for me to lean on. I just have to go out and face my fear. And so the first couple hours of that loneliness was daunting, and it was me wrestling with God. And for the first time, going to Him and asking Him, why am I so scared to be alone? I know that you're an all powerful, omnipresent God and you surround me. Why am I afraid to be alone with you? And, you'd like to think that you get an answer right in the moment, but this literally was hours of wrestling, and it was uncomfortable, and it was molding and shifting. And, in my word, back in prayer, like hashing this out with God. When we talk about wrestling with God, I mean, it's going back and forth, and, it's why? And, even going to God and saying, why can't I trust you? Like, I know that I should trust you. You created me. If there's anybody to trust, it's you, Lord, but I can't. Like, why is my flesh not allowing me to submit here? And so finally, it was like in an instant, I just sat under some shade, looking at the beautiful landscape of the mountains, and there was a river in front of me. I just took a deep breath, and I was like, wow, like I'm here. Like, Lord, you are with me. And I felt an instant sigh of relief because I was alone, but I was alone with the Lord. No longer was I lonely, I was in solitude. And there's a difference between loneliness and solitude.
Yes.
And so I was able to find that. And I was in solitude with the Lord, and I was walking with Him. And it was almost to the point where I was so much happier in solitude with God than I was with other people, which was an unbelievable, remarkable answer to prayer because I'd found basically what I was looking for, and pure peace and joy and comfort. And so leaving that, I now have shifted that into my life. And every day I try to find solitude with the Lord. And what's so amazing is, as I talked before about the emotional connection, this was a serious connection because I'm not in front of beautiful mountains anymore. Sometimes I'm in my own bedroom, and I still feel that amazing peace and solitude with the Lord. And I've been able to pass that on to others. And so it's been amazing and remarkable. It's been great.
I love it. I love it, man. You're a deep well that's just being more deepened by our Father. I love it.
Absolutely.
Love that. So, man, shifting a little bit, kind of, you told that story about the summer that was at the very tail end. You're back on campus now.
Yes, sir.
What is it like being a Christ follower at the University of Alabama from your perspective? What are some challenges and some unexpected joys?
I think the challenges and joys are the same exact thing. It's a double-edged sword. We're in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Cultural Christianity is huge here for those who aren't from the South. Everybody
how would you define that, man? Cultural Christianity for our brothers who are not living in the South or maybe grew up with that.
How I would define cultural Christianity is someone that wants to profess the name of Christ, but maybe has not made the decision in their heart that they want to go fully in. It's lukewarm. It's, I think a big phrase I've heard here is it's all about balance. So we've got people going out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, doing whatever they want. They may not be going home to sleep in their own bed. They may not be making good decisions at the bar, but as long as they make it to church on Sunday, that's okay. It's all about balance, and the Lord forgives, which is true. The Lord does forgive, but He wants you to make that effort to follow Him. You're not making a premeditated decision to sin. And so that's cultural Christianity to me. Would you agree on that definition?
That's a fine way of putting it. Yeah, I've not heard the balance argument, but I certainly can relate to that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's such a lie by Satan telling you it's all about balance, because there's no reward in that lifestyle.
Yeah,
it pulls on you. And so that's the lie. Telling you need to experience these things. but it's sucking from your soul and it's eating at your flesh, and your flesh is consuming your spirit by partaking in these things until your heart is hardened. And so these people that claim Christianity and allow their heart to get hardened, that's a tough life. And so that's why anytime I talk to somebody teetering or has the mentality of it's all about balance, I say, get in before it's too late. Because your heart coldening is a very real thing. And you may not have the ability to make that decision later on because you may be in too deep. But anyway, the issues here for cultural Christianity is also a joy. As a professing Christian, I've never been persecuted for being a Christian. You'll always talk to somebody, even if, let's say you're in a bar at 1 a.m. and you say, no, I'm not doing any of that because I've got church in the morning. They'll be like, brother, I'm going to church too. That's amazing. Like,
that is definitely of the South for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And they'll be like, that's so great. And even they'll celebrate you for, oh, you don't drink. That's so, that's so great. I want to be like you in my Christian walk. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that, it's definitely a joy that it's so accepted here. There's nobody that'll tell you you're wrong for being a Christian. But it's definitely discouraging and an issue when trying to evangelize to those people. I don't think many people talk about that sort of, evangel works.
Right.
It's easy to go to an atheist and tell them they need Jesus because they don't have that mentality at all. They're missing something and they know they don't have it. And if they decide they want it, then they're going to make a life change. But how do you talk to somebody who thinks they have it and they really don't?
Right.
That's a much harder battle. And so that's the struggle around here, especially talking with people. And as you pour out your heart to them, they see no issue in how they're living because I say I believe in the same God as you. Isn't that enough? Yeah. So that's definitely the struggle here. And I would imagine that's the case in a lot of Southern schools.
That does happen. I've been here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for about 20 years or so, and the church and the pastor that I worked with the most, we used to talk often about, like, in the South, you almost have to get them unsaved, and that you have to convince them, like, hey, you grew up in this culturally, but there's never really been a personal commitment and obedience, a love and following of Jesus Christ. So you almost have to do extra work in order to evangelize. No, I very much resonate with that, even just sitting here in Texas. I know some of our brothers listening across the country go like, man, would love to have that problem. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that touches on a prayer we should have for ourselves and a lot of people on being broken down for Christ. I think we should be stripped of all our fleshly desires, wants, needs, of the flesh, in order to find Christ. And so I think a lot of times when we're praying for people like that, we're praying like strip them down to the bones where they have no choice but to desire and need you, which is, as Christians, I believe we should all be praying that as well.
Yeah.
In every day I say, just leave me nothing. So all I have is you. And so I think that's a really good thing to meditate on, especially when talking to those people and living our own lives.
Yeah. It certainly reminds me of your story, being out in Colorado.
Absolutely.
Sounds like the Lord did some of that work. Where do you see signs of hope on your campus, specifically just for brothers and sisters in the Greek community and also in just the wider university population, as far as just having conversations about Christ, talking about what it really means to follow him? Where do you see signs of hope?
I think we are in one of the most hopeful times for Christianity. I mean, there's been a massive wave of true Christianity in our culture, and I think it's only going to get stronger. I think I heard this maybe a couple months ago, but it was a pastor saying that Satan always overplays his hand. And so he has 100% overplayed his hand in our culture because, we all watch the news. There is unbelievable evil surrounding our culture. And people see that and they need to cling on to hope. Where do I find this hope? And so, especially on campus here, I've seen people praying that I've never seen praying before in these times. And so while evil is awful and something that we should really mourn, as Christians, it's our duty to offer that hope to those people that are deeply desiring it and their hearts are open to it. So it's been unbelievable seeing that wave of Christianity come here. And I think it's only going to get bigger it's amazing. The Lord is here and the Lord is
Mm.
working. It's been unbelievable.
Matt, as a spokesman for your generation right now, what are some misperceptions that you would say, man, I'd love to clear that up just for
Yeah.
some of the guys who are a few steps ahead of me in life who may be listening in. Here's
Yeah.
what really is happening.
I've got a take on that from a secular level and from a
Okay.
Christian level.
Cool.
So from a secular standpoint, I think a lot of people think that, we're always on the phones and we're doing stuff. I think I've almost seen the opposite. I think we're going to be the generation that kind of ends that a little bit. One of my good buddies has gone to a flip phone. And so we make fun of him, but he does anything to get away from the phone as much as possible. And, people are setting time limits on their phones, so they're not on social media apps as much. So we're seeing more genuine conversations and people actually wanting to connect. So I don't think that's going to die. A lot of people are saying that'll die with our generation, but I really don't, because people desire that. That's a deep-rooted human desire. So it would never get to a point where that's gone. People need that. And because that's something Christ has put in us, just as humans, we need that connection. So that's not going to end. I think we're definitely going to see a lot of improvement with that and people trying to figure that out. And then just from a Christian level, guys are going to battle for Christ. I don't know if people understand how many warriors there are for Christ that are very young, especially at a college age. And this kind of points to my favorite book of the Bible, Philippians.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
Paul is just in bondage. Like, he's going through it, and he enjoys the suffering. And, because it's for Christ, to live for yourselves, to die, and to die for Christ is to live. And so you see a lot more people living for Christ, and these are warriors, and it's tough. It's not easy. And so we're seeing a lot of that now. I think people should be very excited for the future of Christian men, especially because people are going to battle.
Where do you sense him growing you the most right now, Davis? Just growing in your walk with him and as a leader?
Yeah. Well, I think to answer that question, it's not a right now. I think it's the last 4 years. So coming into
that's really wise.
Absolutely. I think, and it is, it's continual, but coming into school, like we talked before, I was so ill prepared for this situation, right? But my God wasn't. And so for the first 2 years of college, I felt like I was trying to be a good Christian guy rather than a godly man. And to break that down, a good Christian guy is somebody that I just do these things because I want to be seen as I'm the good Christian guy. I do good stuff. I'm generous. I'm forgiving. It's all the exterior. It's not internal.
Would that be along the lines of the cultural stuff you mentioned earlier?
I wouldn't go as far as saying I was a cultural Christian, but I'd say absolutely. That's the concept of cultural Christianity, trying to be a good Christian guy. And so I had that relationship, but I think it was so much smaller than it was now, teetering the line of that cultural Christianity, saying, I can hang out with these people and condone their actions, even if I don't partake in myself, because I'm the good Christian guy. I'm here. I'm going to the bars with them, but I'm not drinking, and I'm going home and I'm still making it to church. Christ met with prostitutes and tax collectors, but he didn't go collect taxes with them. He didn't go, to the prostitutes when she was out on the streets at night. He was with them, but not doing the things with them. So I think you need to really balance. Am I condoning these actions by being there with them? And partaking in this stuff, even if I'm not physically, I'm condoning it with being there, my presence. And so that was one thing I needed to figure out and be there with them as a friend. But maybe I'm not going to tell you should take another shot. That's not something I should do. And so I was trying to be a good Christian guy until I was faced with, like, what am I doing wrong? I feel like I'm so lost. In a certain sense, I was trying to be my own God and saying if I'd sin or I'd mess up, I'm really sorry, God, that I let that happen. I couldn't stop that. I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to police myself. But the truth is flesh destroys flesh. And when you leave it up to flesh to police flesh, you're going to fail every single time. And so I didn't come to that realization until I really submitted. And I said, you know what, God? I really am not in control here. I cannot police myself. I can't guard my own heart. I can't do this. Like, maybe the thought process and my heart was in the right place, like trying to do this for you, like a kid trying to impress his dad. But the thing is you got to sweep in and take care of this for me. I can't do this. And once I submitted, I mean, it was just such a heart change in the fact of I was more forgiving on myself because it wasn't up to me anymore. I now had a perfect God forgiving me. And if I can't forgive myself, there's something wrong with me. And understanding fleshly desires. And so I can't control that. And I will always feel that way. And if I don't turn to the Lord, I will fall to them every single time. I will get angry in traffic. I will tell a white lie to my friend when I'm late. And it was just because I was being lazy on the couch. I didn't really have a meeting. You know, you will fall to that every single time. And so submitting to the Lord and allowing him to guide that has been life-changing and the change I've seen as a leader. And so it's still ongoing and I'll still keep growing, but you have to really go back to see the change now.
Man's Men is made possible in part by our partners at Southern Seminary. Guys, when your ministry calling is serious, the people who prepare you matter. At Southern Seminary, you'll study under pastors, scholars, and faithful leaders who've guided generations of gospel ministers. They are known for teaching God's word with clarity and for living it out with integrity. If you're ready to be trained by trusted faculty for a lifetime of faithfulness, start your MDiv at Southern Seminary. Visit sbts.edu/MDiv. One thing that comes out of the conversations we've had, even from that first really long one at Topgolf that one night, is just the power of community and men in your life. You know, you're a leader at a BYX chapter at a major university in the country. I wanted to hear, Davis, this is where you get to celebrate. Who are the men in your life whom you most admire? I mean, this is where you get to name names and just celebrate some of the gift of good brothers and other men. So who are those guys for you?
So, I mean, if I think of one man in my life, it would definitely be my father. I mean, I think a lot of people point out leaders because of earthly success, and he's a very good earthly leader, but that's not why I admire him. The way he leads for Christ is so unbelievable to watch, and he leads our household. Somebody that will always pick up my call no matter what time of day, no matter if he's in a meeting, he'll be there for me. And he's always there to guide me on the right path and point me back to Christ. So it's been unbelievable. And what an example and somebody to live up to. And then I think there's also other men on the other side of the spectrum, like my little brother. He's 14. He is so much more talented in every aspect. I'm actually glad I don't have his talents because I don't know where I'd be. I don't know how he handles it. But somebody that's so inspiring because, he's never at church, never not at church when the doors are open. He's there. He's living for Christ. So humble with all his talents and his skills. He's 6'5" at 14. He's just got it, and it's so inspiring to watch him lead for Christ and having those attributes. A recent connection is Landon Roberson. You know him.
Oh, yes.
He is really he's just taken me on, pouring into me. And a lot of the concepts that I talk about and surround my life with, he's really just shown me that and led me to Christ and pointed back to his word. So it's been unbelievable. And then just the BYX guys here. I mean, the guys, the seniors, Nate, Landon, Logan, those guys talk about true friendships. And I think it's special to have connections that, they love me enough to tell me the bad things. And that's something that's rare.
Amen.
And, you need people like that. So it's been really special. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, Davis, here's just a down payment on further conversations. We just may not always hit record on those. I do have one more question for you before we wrap up today. And I just want you to look ahead a little bit, not presumptively, but just with the Lord leading the way. Who and where do you hope to be 5 years from now, bro?
Well, when I think about that, I definitely want to be a vessel. I don't think of myself at all, but I want God to breathe through me and speak through me in whatever I do and living faithfully. And so, I think I've learned in the past 4 years that I will have no idea where I'll be in 5 years. But I can tell you, I really hope I'm leading faithfully and Christ is using my attributes and my skills to pour into others and lead for Christ and be courageous and be a warrior. So that's where I want to be. I hope I'm married.
Yeah.
I hope things are going well. But if I don't have any of that and he strips everything away from me, I hope I'm just a vessel for him and I can pour into others.
Well, brother, you're well on your way. That is your trajectory right now. You are that. That's the man I've experienced as we've sat together and we've talked, even just today. Grateful for you coming on, Davis.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Roll Tide.
Oh, man. Man to Men is powered by Beta Upsilon Chi, commonly referred to as BUX. Our vision is that everywhere, every day, BUX men are raising families, leading in organizations, and strengthening churches to impact our communities for Christ. You can find out more about Beta Upsilon Chi by transliterating our Greek letters and adding a .org. That's byx.org. We are produced, rather well, I might add, by the good gentlemen of the Good Podcast Company. For Beta Upsilon Chi, I'm Dr. Jared Musgrove with Man to Men.